Awesome. Evening, y'all. How's it going? Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat. As usual, joined with my awesome co-host, the purveyor of all things Dracona Media, Mr. Alec Larson. How's it going, man?
No, it's all good. What's news? I've got the final master of the Newborns and Omni track, so that's cool.
Is that the one featuring Demon Stealer?
Yeah. So we're going to release it soon on Bandcamp and then delay it, like do a staggered release. I also want to chat to a couple of the like smaller niche technical death metal labels overseas. Because now there's 3 songs, so that there's a demo.
Ooh, really? Right there. I love it, man. I'm digging this productivity. Actually, on the MMD front, I'm going to do a little plug also, because this week we just had the new Helver EP, actually, Baptized in Blasphemy. That's across all digital platforms. Go give it a check. If you want quality wave, go to the MMD Bandcamp. Right. With all of that shameless self-promotion out the way, let's kind of delve a little bit into technical melodic death metal. And what better guest to have than Johannesburg OG Shredder. You guys know him as one of the main guys from Nerve Zero. Today we're joined with Kevin. How's it going, man?
What's up, dude? How you doing? I'm glad you said something like technical in there. I don't see myself as technical. But thank you for that compliment.
Okay, fine. We'll leave the time changing and all of that for later on. But let's actually delve a little bit back into let's talk a little bit back into the beginning of lockdown, as we do with all of our conversations. We usually start when lockdown hit. The pandemic kind of hit the entertainment industry pretty hard, SA industry pretty hard. You guys obviously had a lot of momentum going. You were touring the album out quite extensively, and then bang, this COVID pandemic hit. So in terms of Nerve Zero, how was it in the camp? How are you guys dealing with it during this lockdown pandemic time?
Besides the whole lockdown thing, we seem to have been going through a lot of lineup changes. We couldn't quite nail down a permanent drummer because our drummer Alex actually left for Australia. So we went through a few drummers, and then our vocalist Kim left the band. So then we got in a few stand-ins as such. And then eventually Kimmy decided to join us again. But in that whole time, as you say, lockdown came as well. So our whole momentum just stopped. We were in limbo, no gigs, we weren't writing, we weren't getting together at all. So it was kind of tough, eh? And I think a lot of bands went through that same crap. Sorry, can I swear on here?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can. Go right ahead. We swear all the damn time. Talking about this shit.
Yeah, so it was kind of tough, eh? But we weathered the storm, and here we are.
That's awesome. Like a lot of bands actually, I think, probably fell apart during this time period. So I'm glad, despite all the challenges, it's like it proves that you guys are committed to this music. So you guys play some progressive death metal, and like I know because I've seen your tabs that there's some time signature changes in there, but generally it's still like a multiple of 4. Like your guys would transition from 4/4 to 10/4 to 6/4. I was wondering, how do you guys like come up with these like weird time signature changes? Is it just like the jamming thing and then it happens naturally and you reverse engineer what you jammed?
Yeah, that's funny you should bring that up, because whatever members joined us recently in the band, because we've got a very new bassist and a fairly new drummer, and they always comment like, how do you write your stuff? It's like, so there's some weird shit going on there. And we don't it's not because Bronze, the rhythm guitarist, and I have been writing music together for the last 25 years. And we've always been like this, and we cannot explain it or why. It's just something that comes naturally. And it kind of pisses off some people that have to learn the stuff. And they're like, why are you writing like this? And we're like, hey, it's just how it is. But it makes things interesting, you know, it keeps you guessing, kind of thing. Although, as you say, on the other side of the coin, we're pretty rhythmic and quite predictable in certain other aspects. So it makes it quite interesting, I guess.
Sick.
Excellent. Well, let's actually pull this back, because I did mention, obviously, you guys released your album Torture Chamber in 2018. You had Nicholas Watts used as a producer. Now, for anybody that doesn't really know, he's more associated, we got to say another nasty word here on the channel, metalcore.
Metalcore.
Oh, so that being said, obviously sonically a different type of aspect altogether. What made you guys decide to work with him? And I guess secondly, how was the process working with him on it?
Nick, he's awesome. He's extremely strict, pedantic, fussy, and he's got probably one of the best ears in production music. So I would recommend any style of musician to work with him, not just metal, simply because he's very clinical. And we just heard certain albums from bands that they were just sounding so sick, you know, and very impressed with the turnout of our album. In hindsight, yes, you're never going to be 100% happy. When you listen back, it's like, oh, I wish this was this, or this was louder, or whatever. But generally speaking, for our debut album, we were over the moon, and very nice dude to work with. But he will make you play that part 100 times if he's not happy with it, and screw you if you don't want to play it. He even says, listen, if you can't play it, give me the guitar, I'll play it for you. But it was lekker, it was really lekker. And yeah, I don't even think it took us a year to record that album. I mean, as you know, we all have careers, we all have jobs, so it's not a case of sitting in a studio 24/7. But I don't know if we'll use Clint again going into the studios, not because we're unhappy with him. It's just we might want to pursue a different sound this time, because our songs are going to be very different.
Well, I guess kind of follow-up question to that. I mean, like, let's jump right back into lockdown mode, new kind of band members, a little bit of fresh energy, if you will.
Yes,
how is the new material coming together? Have you guys had time to jam together?
Yeah. We've had a few gigs since lockdown sort of eased up, but our focus now, we've actually stopped all gigs until we've given ourselves till October, and we're slowly going to be writing new material. For the first time since the sort of birth of News Zero, every single member in the band can write songs. And we've never had that before. It's always been myself and Bronze in the guitar writing, and then Kim would obviously write lyrics. But this time, the bassist is giving us songs. Dave, the drummer, can write songs. And so it's going to be a very interesting thing, because we're going to get a lot of different influences, and I'm really excited about it. So we're currently working on 4 new tracks, but when we come back in October, we want to come back with a whole new set, which is quite a challenge we've set for ourselves. But we felt we were getting a bit stagnant playing the old stuff every time, and then the crowds get used to it, and they also get bored. You don't want to keep giving them the same old. So I'm losing my track of thought here. Oh yes, when before we get back, we want to release a video. We want to release a new recording, and possibly an EP before the end of the year. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh yeah.
That is awesome. We mentioned that you're quite a stalwart from the scene. You know, you have experience and you jammed in Gutted Remains a long time ago. You mentioned that it's been 25 years that you and Bronze have been writing music together.
Yeah.
So let's explore your experience like a little bit. Like, how has the local metal scene changed in this time period? And like, I mean, Gutted Remains is probably one of the top tier sounding death metal albums from that late 90s, early 2000s era, where like a lot of South African metal bands were just like, not very good recordings. Very DIY. So how's it changed for you, like, in all your experience?
A huge change. In the scene, you hear that word scene. In the 90s, there was no WhatsApp, there was no Facebook, there was no social media. So bands had to get their asses out there and put posters on cars and put posters on walls, and they had to promote a gig that way. And if you didn't do that, no one would rock up to your gig. So all bands put in a lot of effort and a lot of hard hours just promoting a gig. Whereas now, you just post the events on Facebook and occasionally share it and hope that people rock up. So in that respect, a hell of a lot has changed. I don't want to badmouth the scene these days. I think there's still some very diehard metalheads out there. I do think there's that aspect of wannabes trying to fit into the scene, but it's changed a lot. It really has changed a lot. I mean, now you're watching people filming you with a cell phone, whereas before they were getting involved in a full-on mosh. So, I mean, I've got a lot of fond memories of the early days, the gutter days, and a lot of bands we toured with, like Groenchen and all that. It was chaos. It was absolute chaos. We were a lot younger. We drank a lot more. And we had aspirations back then, maybe we'll be famous and maybe we'll tour overseas and all that. Whereas now, it's just, I don't want to be famous. I just want to play. And that's it. And if I play to 5 people or 500 people, I'm still going to give my all.
Damn right. Man, actually, you've got the perfect segue there, because you actually did mention earlier that you guys have played a couple of gigs since this lockdown started.
Yes.
We've spoken to a couple of bands that were very much not ready to start performing because of, questions around COVID and all of that. What are your guys' thoughts regarding, I guess, the safety precautions at shows nowadays, moving forward now? Like, how do you think things are gonna pan out now with all these COVID regulations in place at events? And the idea of a circle pit kind of seems kind of obscure at these times,
Funny you should say that, because at our last gig there was a mosh. So it's hard, and eventually the scene, or the events, shall we say, has to open up, because it's the livelihood of musicians, and a lot of overseas musicians have to survive. So they cannot sit on social media all the time and hope to make a living. So eventually things have to open up. What I experienced from the couple of gigs that we did play, we all arrived with masks on, we did our sanitizer, and then after that, it's all gone. So it is a risk, let's be honest. And but I think it's a risk that a lot of metalheads are prepared to take, because they starve for music. It's really, and you can see it. I mean, people are getting there and they're really getting into the shows. And same with the bands. It's just like we've missed it so much. So there's a risk. I mean, there's a risk you're going to catch flu. There's a risk you're going to catch pneumonia wherever you go. So what the hell?
Exactly.
You brought up Dave, right? And Dave is a legend. He's played in Sorted, and he's also played in Momentum with me. He's joined your lineup recently, and he's actually produced quite a lot of local metal bands' albums as well.
That's right, yeah.
You must be quite excited to include him in the process. And do you think that you might be going his sort of recording route for the material going forward?
Absolutely. I've heard the Sorted album. I have no doubt that he can produce a good album for us. And very exciting because he knows exactly what he wants to do with our sound. And we actually, on Friday night, we're going to go lay down a couple of guitar tracks to a couple of our new songs, just to get the ball rolling, just like pre-production. It's not going to be getting into the studio type thing, but we really need to get the ball rolling on the new stuff. And it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to working with him.
That's awesome.
Nice. It also kind of adds even more so a little bit more of a DIY type of process, because now you're kind of handling everything kind of internally within the band. So it'll be interesting, because obviously in the case of having somebody like Dave involved, you guys can now put out a single well before the album's even done. There's a lot of opportunities there actually. Well, I guess like obviously, let's actually just one final thing about production, a little bit, one more bit of nostalgia. Every guy that we've spoken to, let's call it from the good old days of the SA metal scene, basically says the modern production, it's chalk and cheese compared to olden times. So your experience from recording back in the 90s compared to how it's been now, how it, like
oh boy. Look, I'll be honest, when we recorded the Gutted Remains album, I don't think we were ever sober. It was just absolute chaos, and the fact that it came out the way it did, I'm quite surprised, because it was just alcohol and weed and more alcohol and sitting in the studio totally out of it. But to look at recordings of today, everything is digital and everything's tight and click, and you quantize and you cut and paste, and everything's a little bit clinical sometimes, I'll say, because you can hear it in certain recordings. Just an example, if a drum kit's too triggered or something, you can hear it. A lot of the natural rawness has maybe been lost nowadays, and that's a bit sad. So that's why I'm quite excited to work with Dave here, because we can still get a sound that we want, and we know that we're going to play it tight, because we know how it should work now, if you know what I mean. Whereas before it was like, oh, well, there's a couple of mistakes, but no, there mustn't be mistakes, but it also mustn't lose its feel. So that's what's changed for me in the last maybe 20 years, and not just locally, but internationally. You just feel it's beautifully tight. And then I'm always saying, well, what's it going to sound like live? If you can't reproduce that live, you're screwed. And how many bands can say that? I mean, if you watch a band listen to a band like Periphery, and you watch them live, they sound like the CD, and that's beautiful. But that's a very special band. Not many bands can sound live. And that's another thing with our sound, is we don't lay down millions of guitar tracks, because now it's sounding so fat in the studio or on the record. And then you go live, it's like, hey, that doesn't sound anything like they are. So that's what we're also kind of sticking to, is we're not going to overproduce anything. I insist on that, because I want to sound live how we sound on the album, or as close as possible, if you know.
Oh yeah, well, that's going to be quite exciting. Let's actually just stay on the topic, because let's actually talk a little bit about songwriting. your guys' process. Now you as the lead guitarist, how do you decide or not whether or not a song should have a solo, or how it should structurally end, or you know, your personal thoughts as a lead guitarist? Like, how is the process generally with writing for Nerve Zero?
Yeah, a little bit back to front. Maybe other bands do it the way we do, I don't know. But what we will do is I'll have a certain amount of riffs. And if I can't figure out a full song, I'll go to Bronze and say, listen, I've got these riffs. What do we do? And then he'll come up with his own ideas, maybe throw in a few of his own riffs. And then a song is created. What we've also done in the past is we've got so much recorded on actually tape from years ago that we haven't even used. And we were listening to them the other day, and it's like, oh my word, we need to use this stuff. So we're actually going through all of the old stuff and pulling out what we think we can use, and that's also cool. Regards to solos and all that, I don't know. I feel like not every song needs a solo. And in the new stuff, you might hear songs that have no solo, but you definitely will have melodic, maybe harmonies happening or something like that. But, you know, I'm not a shredder, and I've never pretended to be one. A lot of my solos are very like melodic, slow stuff, and that's who I am. So I don't necessarily feel it has to be a solo as such. It can just complement the song a little bit more with a melodic sort of trill here or there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely, the sound of Nerve Zero definitely is like a unique type of sound. I mean, you guys have always added quite a bit of color to whatever the lineups are that you're a part of. I guess kind of as we start to delve towards the end of our awesome little chat here, what do you think the future is of SA Metal post-COVID? Obviously, we spoke earlier about a lot of bands probably falling from the wayside. You know, this is very much a strong will survive. The cream will rise to the top, so to speak. What are your thoughts? I mean, you guys both are based up in Johannesburg. We've spoken to countless Cape Town bands recently, and they're all skeptical, but it's going to be a slow grow. So what are your thoughts up in Joburg? How do you think it's going to pan out?
There seems to be a lot of new bands coming out of the scene. Maybe lockdown forced people to start jamming. I don't know, but I've noticed quite a few new bands coming out, and they're pretty damn good too. With the more seasoned bands, I think it's all about patience, and maybe just use this time to write more material, to release more material. Because gigs, although they are happening, there's a lot of people that are still nervous to go out and go to gigs. So maybe they get a bit despondent because the turnout's not great or what have you. But the thing is, it's a worldwide thing. We've just got to ride the wave, really. But I'm excited to see that there's new acts coming out, because I think the scene needed that quite a lot, with new bands and new material and new styles of metal. I mean, we're seeing more punk-influenced metal now, and I think they're called Hell Hollow. I was blown away by them. Bunch of little youngsters, but they're releasing this, like, it reminded me of like old school Hypocrisy, the band Hypocrisy, and that to me was like, wow. I mean, where did they get the influences from? They're like 19 or 20. So yeah, it's quite exciting to see new stuff happening, and the metal scene will survive. It's always going to be there. It's just a case of when will it really come back.
Sick. So I saw today, while I was looking at some videos on YouTube of your guys' stuff, I saw that your bassist did a playthrough of Torture Chamber, and I noticed that he plays on a 6-string bass.
Yeah,
that must be quite interesting. And I know that you guys play in D standard, like quite a lot of death metal bands do. So maybe you could tell us what his sort of setup is, if you know, like how's he tuning that bass?
I actually don't know. Bronze would be able to tell you that. He's actually just he's actually just started using a 6-string fretless. So he played his first gig with us with that fretless, and it works, It really works. There's a lot of parts of the song that it makes a big change. Funny, when you watch that video, he was so new to the band, and when he released that video, he was so rusty. Yeah. Still, I'm sure you noticed. Yeah. I said to him, dude, why are you putting a video when you hardly know the song yourself? But yeah, he's a very different bassist to what we've had before, because he's played in jazz bands, he's played in blues bands, rock bands, and you only notice when you got a damn good bassist when a damn good bassist joins your band. And he's very good. He's doing so much with our sound, and as I said, he's also writing songs, which is very cool. So as for his tuning, I'm not too sure.
Okay, that's all good. But that's you basically answered it anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very skeptical when he said he's going to start playing on a fretless, because a lot of people just say, think fretless is geared towards more funk or jazz or something like that, but it works. It really, really works.
Yeah, I guess on that note, I mean, if you look at some of the more tech death bands, there's quite a few where the bassists use, fretless. So if you look at something like Beyond Creation, or I can't think of the other one. It's a French band.
There's a band starting with an A. I can't remember the name.
It's that weird funky jazz element, but again, you guys are going to let him roll with it, and it's going to be quite fun to hear what musical chaos comes out of the studio from you guys. So I guess any final plugs, any final things you want to push before we end this pretty refined chat? I must be honest, it's actually gone pretty damn smooth on. But
oh, really?
Anything else you want to push moving forward?
So as I said, we've pretty much stipulated because we're getting offered gigs quite often, and we said, listen guys, we've given ourselves till October, and then come October they're going to hear a lot of new stuff. In fact, probably 80% new stuff, which is very cool, because any band that plays the same old stuff and the crowds that hear the same old stuff, it's like, come on guys. So it's about time that we release the new stuff. We're going to do a video, we're going to do a single. We're going to do a photo shoot. I know that's something we had to do ages ago. I'm just keen to get in the studio and see what comes out of it. I think Dave has got a hell of a lot of experience, and it's just going to be interesting to see how heavy we're going to sound. We're not going to promise to be heavier. We're not going to promise to be faster, but we're certainly going to be freaking death metal.
Damn right. Yeah. And honestly, I hope we can see you guys down here soon, here in Cape Town. It would be awesome to have you guys down here. So, I guess on that note, we're going to end this for a night again, Alec? What do you say?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kev. It was great to talk to you. It's good to see some insights, and it's also really cool to be able to see that you guys are doing things, behind the scenes. And I think I think it's nice that people that are watching this will be able to see that, like you guys are working on something, like, they now understand. They've seen you on a couple of show lineups, but now they understand when they don't see you on the next few, they understand that you guys are actually now focusing on making material. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me for this.
100%, man.
It's really been awesome. It's been an honor chatting to you, Kevin. We can't wait to hear new noise. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, just we'll keep monitoring social media. You guys just keep doing your thing. And yeah,
thank you.
We're gonna call that quits for another week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back same time, same place on the interweb next week. And yeah, keep the social distancing going, keep healthy, keep safe, and yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Laters, y'all. Bye.